This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris. Welcome to Easy Entertaining.
Pork with plum sauce. It's a really simple dish to put together and so delicious. The first thing I do is I start by getting a pork tenderloin. They usually come in a package like this, and there's usually 2 of them in there. And I find that what I need to do is cut them in half so that I have 4 sort of small little pork tenderloins to work with. Now we're going to start by searing these on the stove before we pop them in the oven. But to get a good sear, you need to make sure that the meat is fairly dry. So I'm just going to take a paper towel and kind of dab the moisture off. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of olive oil and drizzle it. You can see not much, but it gives a nice coating on the meat. It helps, again, get that nice sear to hold all the juices in. And then I'm just going to sprinkle a little kosher salt all over the pork. Now over at the stove, I've got my large saute pan and I have it on medium-high heat, and you can tell it's smoking hot. And that's what we absolutely need it to be. So then we're going to take each piece of pork and place it in the pan. Now you're not going to be able to move the pork, for the first few minutes. So make sure that you place them so that they all fit nicely. And then just grab some pepper and put some pepper on top. Now after a couple minutes, you'll take your tongs, and if you can easily turn the meat, you know that it has that nice brown sear. That's the way we can tell that it's ready to turn. And that's what we're going for. What we're doing with this type of cooking method is we're searing the meat first, and then what we're going to do is pop it in the oven. Now, we've done our second side of searing, which is great. And now we're going to go ahead, put a little bit more pepper on top. And then we're going to go ahead and pop the whole pan, just like this, into a 425-degree oven for 20 minutes. And we're just going to let these tenderloins slowly roast. Now, while the pork is roasting, we can go ahead and get our plum sauce ready. And to start, we're going to get a jar of plum jam at the grocery store, and we're going to measure out 1 cup of it. Now, you can see this is a very thick jam, which is great. And then we're going to take that and we're going to put it into a small saucepan. Then we're going to get 3 green onions or scallions, and we're going to chop those up, and we want to use both the white and the green part of the onion, and go ahead and put that in the saucepan with the plum jam. Now, as the jam heats up, it's going to liquefy, so we need to thicken it up by putting in 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Now, at this point, you're going to want to stir this into the jam. That way, as it heats up, it thickens the sauce and doesn't make any lumps. Then for a little more flavoring, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of dry sherry, 1/4 cup of soy sauce, and 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. Now we're going to go ahead and stir all of that up together, being very careful that there's a lot of liquid we're trying to mix in with that plum jam. And then we're going to go ahead and put it on a heat on about medium, and we're going to cook it till it gets bubbly. Now, because this mixture has cornstarch in it, you do want to stay with it and stir it every now and then. And then when it starts to get a bunch of steam coming off of it like this, well, then you know it's getting really close to bubbling and starting to thicken up. And this whole thing is only going to take about 5 to 6 minutes. Now, after 20 minutes, the pork is done, and I'm ready to pull it out of the oven. And once I do, I always put my pot holder on the handle because I always forget that handle stays hot for quite a while. I like to let the pork rest for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then it's just a question of starting to slice it up. Now, as you start to slice the pork, you're going to notice it has a little bit of color to it, a little bit of light pink, and that is absolutely what we want. We don't want dried out gray meat. We want something that has some nice juices and some great flavor. Then all you have to do is put your sliced meat on a plate and drizzle some of that wonderful plum sauce on the top. You know, pork tenderloin is a great meal because you can get it together pretty quickly, but then it's like, what do you put on top of it? So this plum sauce is definitely a recipe to keep in mind.
For more information on this episode, go to our website and visit the Easy Entertaining show notes. Also, if you have any questions or ideas for us, send us an email. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.